What if the last thing you ever heard was a knock at your own door? Sarah lived alone in a remote countryside house miles from the nearest town. She loved the silence. But one October night, the silence broke. 3 slow knocks echoed through the house. Deliberate, patient, terrifying. Sarah checked her phone. No signal, no way to call for help. She grabbed a flashlight and crept slowly toward the front door. Through the peephole, she saw nothing, just empty darkness staring back. Then she heard it again, this time from inside the house. Her breath stopped. Every instinct screamed at her to run. She backed against the wall, flashlight trembling in her shaking hands. The scratching grew louder, moving closer, crawling beneath the floorboards. Sarah ran toward the back door, her only possible escape route. She burst outside into the cold night air, gasping desperately. Behind her, the back door slowly swung shut on its own. She ran into the woods, branches tearing at her arms and face. Then she stopped. Ahead of her stood a figure, completely still. It slowly raised one hand and pointed directly back toward her house. Sarah never returned home, and nobody ever found out what was waiting inside.
What if the last thing you ever heard was something that shouldn't exist? Sarah was driving alone on a deserted highway, miles from the nearest town. Her radio suddenly switched on by itself, playing a faint, distorted lullaby. She turned it off. It came back on, 3 times. Then a voice whispered her name through the static. Heart pounding, she pulled over and scanned the empty road. Nothing, just silence and the distant howl of wind. Then she noticed footprints forming in the dust beside her window. Each step pressed down slowly, moving closer toward her door. She locked every door and held her breath in absolute terror. The footprints stopped directly outside her window. A cold handprint slowly appeared on the glass from outside. She screamed and floored the accelerator, speeding into the night. Miles later, she finally stopped at a gas station, shaking uncontrollably. She called the police, who searched the entire road thoroughly. They found nothing. No footprints, no handprint, no evidence at all. But when Sarah got home, her bathroom mirror had one message: another handprint, identical, already waiting for her inside.
What if the last person you trusted was never really there at all? Sarah moved into the old house on Elm Creek Road alone, excited for a fresh start. The neighbors warned her. Nobody ever stayed longer than a week. She laughed it off, unpacked her boxes, and settled in for the night. But at midnight, she heard footsteps directly above her bedroom ceiling. She grabbed her phone and called her friend Marcus, hands trembling. Marcus told her to check the attic. She slowly climbed the creaking stairs. The attic door swung open before she even touched the handle. Inside, she found dozens of old photographs pinned across every wall. Every single photo showed the same woman standing outside this very house. Sarah looked closer and felt her blood run cold. The woman was her. She spun around, and the attic door had vanished completely behind her. Panic rising, she screamed for help until her voice completely gave out. Then her phone buzzed. A message from Marcus read, "I never called you tonight." She realized with horror that someone else had been on that call. A cold hand touched her shoulder from behind in the darkness. The next morning, neighbors found the house completely empty and utterly silent. Sarah was never seen again. But the footsteps above, they never stopped. What if the last person you trusted was never really there? Sarah moved into her grandmother's old house after she passed away, excited for a fresh start. The house felt cold, even in summer. Every room carried a strange, heavy silence. On her first night, Sarah heard footsteps above her. But the attic was locked. She checked every door, every window. Everything was sealed shut from the inside. Then she found her grandmother's journal hidden beneath a loose floorboard in the kitchen. The final entry read, "It watches from the mirror. Never look directly at it." Sarah's blood ran cold. She slowly turned toward the large mirror across the room. Her reflection stared back, but it raised its hand 1 full second after she did. She screamed and ran, slamming every door behind her as she sprinted downstairs. But at the bottom of the stairs stood a figure, wearing her grandmother's dress. The figure tilted its head slowly and whispered, "You should not have read that journal." Sarah bolted through the front door into the freezing night, never looking back once. She drove for hours until she reached a motel and collapsed inside, trembling uncontrollably. Exhausted, she finally fell asleep. But something felt deeply, terribly wrong immediately upon waking. On the nightstand sat her grandmother's journal, the one she had left behind at the house. It was open to a brand new entry, written in fresh ink in Sarah's own handwriting. It simply said, "I'm already here with you." Sarah was never truly alone again.